You're listening to the Real Longevity Podcast, your number one podcast resource for living a longer life. Here we discuss topics on personal fitness, longevity, and real lasting elevation of mind, body, and spirit. Join us as we build a community of healthy men and women enjoying lasting levels of real health and vitality. If you're currently feeling frustrated with pain, flat, or fed up with aging faster than you actually are, you're invited to join us each and every week here on the Real Longevity Podcast. Welcome to the Real Longevity family and get ready to live a life you truly love. Welcome back to the Real Longevity Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Hendricks, and today we have another outstanding, informative, and elevating show that I'm sure you're going to enjoy. I'd like to welcome all first-time listeners to the podcast, and be sure to stay to the end of the show, where I'll be sharing all my connection and social media links where you can connect with me and the Real Longevity Podcast community. How are we doing? Welcome, and a pleasure to have you here once again. Now, today we are talking about an organ system that controls more of your health than any other. You may be aware of this, you may not be aware of it. And most people over the age of 45 have kind of been ignoring this organ and normalizing maybe the poor performance or they've been feeling in terms of energy for years. And I'm talking about your gut. Now, I don't mean that in a vague wellness industry kind of way. I'm talking about your actual digestive system, your gut system, your digestive health. The up to 9 meters, that's right, you've got up to 9 meters of tube that runs from your mouth to your colon. It's responsible for housing around about 70%, I believe, of your immune system. It produces over 95% of your body's serotonin. It also communicates directly with your brain via the vagus nerve, and it houses and hosts trillions of microorganisms that are collectively influencing things such as your mood, the way you feel, your energy, controls your weight, and levels of pain that you might be experiencing, and exposing you to diseases as well. So we're talking about your gut health and your gut that is basically running the show. And we know that after 45, this system changes quite significantly. The diversity in your gut microbiome, the range of beneficial bacteria in your digestive tract, that does decline as we get older, as we age. Those digestive enzymes that are produced, they tend to reduce in their productivity. They're less efficient or less effective. The integrity between your gut wall or the lining can become compromised, and all that can result for many people in things such as bloating, feeling tired, feeling that they've got irregular bowel movements, that low-grade fatigue or brain fog, or not being able to have that same get up and go. They may have skin issues, skin not looking as smooth or as radiant as it once did. Their mood goes up and down or it dips in frequency. And there doesn't seem to be any real obvious reason why this happens. And this can all be down to our gut health. Now, I'm sure some of those, for many of you listening, will sound familiar. At least one or two of those, if not maybe 3 or 4. And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. It's going to be one of the most valuable things you've listened to this year, because as I said, it's a bit of a blind spot for many people. So today's title is called Go By Your Gut: The Hidden Connection Between Digestive Health and How You Feel After 45. Go By Your Gut: The Hidden Connection Between Digestive Health and How You Feel After 45. Your gut is basically running the show. And this is one of the areas that we talk about in the Real Rejuvenation framework. It's the E, talking about eat right for energy. Not eat right just to lose weight, but eat right for energy. And we're going to understand exactly how what you eat shapes your gut and how your gut shapes everything else. It impacts everything that we're doing. Why is it that your gut health matters more than you may be aware or may have been told or understand? about your health and how it impacts it. Well, let's give some context. I think that's important and fundamental to how you're going to understand your gut health and how your gut health works. Now, you may have heard that term, gut health microbiome. So that is the community of bacteria. So we're talking about the fungi and other organisms that live in your digestive tract. It's understood by researchers now that it's very, very important to our human health. And many scientists refer to it as the second brain. You've probably heard that, trust your gut. What does your gut reaction say? What's your gut feeling? That's your second brain. And it's not really a metaphor, it's actually real. Your gut has its own nervous system. We know that now, and it's called the enteric nervous system. It's a complex part of the autonomic central nervous system that controls our gastrointestinal tract. It's often referred to as that second brain, as I mentioned. You trust your gut. And that, by the way, contains more neurons than the actual spinal cord, so you can see how complex it actually is. So that gut-brain axis is a bidirectional or a two-way communication system, or a two-way communication highway between your gut and your brain. And that means that the state of your gut directly impacts and influences your mental health. So things such as feeling maybe a sense of anxiety or low mood or your cognitive brain function or disruptive sleep, they're all a direct response of how your gut-brain axis is working. All of these conditions have been linked to many high-level research projects on poor gut microbiome or poor gut microbiome diversity. Your gut also produces and regulates hormones that control your appetite. They control things as your fat storage. They control things such as your energy metabolism. And such things such as ghrelin, which you may have heard of or know as the hunger hormone, and leptin, which we also know is the satiety hormone, the hormone that makes you feel satisfied after you've eaten or not satisfied after you've eaten. Things such as acids that we have in our body, so short-chain fatty acids that signal to the mitochondria whether to produce energy or to store fat. If your microbiome, we know, is out of balance, these signals can become interrupted or distorted. You feel hungry when you don't. One of the things that people talk about is that they can't stop eating. That, to me, is a signal that there's some imbalance in terms of their gut biology and the microbiome in their gut, or the good and bad bacteria. So your body can hold on to fat that it doesn't need to. This is a big one that I see a lot of the time with my clients. They can't get rid of that area around that midsection because they become insulin resistant. And that, again, can indicate there's some issues with their gut health. Your immune system, that can become compromised. 70% of your immune cells live in and around your gut or your intestinal tract. A compromised gut microbiome means compromised immune response, which means you get sick more often, recover more slowly, and have a higher level of inflammation in your system. As we've talked about in previous episodes, chronic inflammation is a common thread running through virtually every age-related health challenge people over 45 are struggling with. So we're talking about things such as heart disease, we're talking about cognitive decline, we're talking about joint pain, we're talking about inflammation in the body. Your gut health is not just a side issue, it's a foundation. So we need to think about how we can look to get this right and improve it. What's damaging your gut after 45 and why it's getting worse. Gut microbiome after 45 faces a specific set of challenges that can compound over time. Decades of processed food consumption have starved the beneficial bacteria in your gut that depend on a diverse plant fiber to survive. The average UK adult eats somewhere between 12 and 15 grams of dietary fiber per day. The recommended daily amount is somewhere in and around 30 grams. The human gut microbiome has evolved diets that provided over 100 grams, some people say even more. We are living in a state of chronic fiber deficiency, and that is one of the reasons why it's devastating our digestive health and our gut health and our gut diversity. Another thing that we need to be mindful of is antibiotics. Most adults over the 45-year mark have taken forms of antibiotics, whether short-term or long-term. These antibiotics, we know, they kill indiscriminately. They wipe out harmful bacteria, which is obviously important if we've got an issue or a challenge with our health, but they also significantly reduce the population of beneficial bacteria, beneficial species that live in and around our gut. Without those beneficial bacteria or that diversity between good and bad bacteria, it causes issues with our health. And the antibiotics that many of us take, they destroy those and they don't often fully recover. So that's something that we need to be mindful of. We know another issue that challenges us as we get older is chronic stress. The kind of stress that accumulates over decades, being busy in our work, being career driven, being pressured, being a responsible adult looking after aging parents or young children that are growing up with their challenges. These all suppress our microbiome in our gut. That stress response redirects blood flow away from the digestive system. It alters the gut motility and it fundamentally changes the composition of species that can survive. So we need to be mindful of the stress, the amount of stress and prolonged stress that we're exposing ourselves to in our lives. And another one is alcohol. Excess sugar, seed oils, and emulsifiers found in virtually every, if not all, ultra-processed foods that contribute to a condition called increased intestinal permeability, sometimes known as leaky gut, where the tight junctions of the gut wall become compromised, allowing partially digested food and particles and bacteria to enter into our main bloodstream. That can trigger immune response, such as inflammation and a wide range of other symptoms. It's interesting because only last week I was discussing this with a lady telling me that she was doing all the right things, and you may be able to relate to this. So she was eating healthier, she was going for swims a couple of times a week, she was going for walks 3 times a week, but still felt tired and not seeing her weight shift at all. Now, the old Mike would have said something like, "Now you need to eat less and exercise more." That's the advice that the old Mike would have given. But I've been fortunate to work with some very smart and intelligent people over the years, and that advice, as you know, would have been foolish and flawed. However, since I started working with Paul Chek and the Paul Chek Institute and learning from some very highly skilled and knowledgeable individuals and deeply understanding holistic health and fitness and issues such as leaky gut, I could educate her on the potential issue, but more importantly, I could give her some advice on what she can begin to combat it. So this would be less of a frustration for her. And this is what we're going to talk about now. Your 3 steps that's going to help you move you forward so you're not having this issue of where you may be feeling compromised. If your gut health is not optimal or not being optimized, what can you actually do about it? Step number 1, add fermented foods daily, starting this week. The fastest way to begin restoring your gut microbiome is diversity in your diet. So naturally fermented foods are going to help to reintroduce diversity in your gut. We're talking about live natural yogurt, not sweetened yogurt, not processed variations, not fancy ones, not low fat, but plain full fat yogurt with live cultures. Options include things such as kefir, which is a fermented milk drink. It's widely available in many stores now and contains significantly more bacteria than your standard strains of yogurt. So that's something that you may want to consider. Sauerkraut and kimchi. These are fermented vegetables that are extremely rich and beneficial in bacteria and particularly powerful in gut restoration. Kombucha, fermented tea that supports both microbial diversity and also supporting the gut lining as well. So there are some options that you can consider fermented foods daily in your diets. You don't need large amounts of these. Small portions of fermented food with 1 or 2 meals per day is sufficient to begin meaningfully shifting your gut microbiome and composition positively within 2 to 3 weeks. So that's something for you to consider in step number 1. Step number 2, aim for 30 different plants per week. This recommendation comes directly from the world's largest gut microbiome research project. You may have heard of them, the American Gut Project. 30 plants sounds like a lot, but it isn't, because every different vegetable, fruit, herb, spice, nut, seeds, whole grain contains a separate plant extract. Aim for 30 different plants per week. This recommendation comes directly from the world's largest gut microbiome research project, American Gut Project, which found that most people, that includes you and I, who ate 30 or more different plant-based foods per week had significantly greater gut microbiome diversity than those who ate fewer. We know that for many of us, our food bandwidth is extremely narrow. We average between 10 to 15 different food types on a weekly basis and 7 to 10 different meals per week, if that. So we need to think about how we can expand and broaden our food bandwidth, and this is one of the ways that we can do it. Now, 30 plants sounds like a lot, but it isn't really if you think about it, because every different vegetable, fruit, herb, spice, legume, nut, seed, whole grains, they all count as a separate plant in their individual round. So, for example, a handful of mixed nuts is already 5 or 6 different plants. Tin mixed beans, if that's something that you like. Salads with a variety of different leaves, cucumbers, tomatoes. That's again a wide spectrum of different plants. The goal is not perfection here, and I hope you don't think that's what I'm trying to promote. They have to get 30 bang on the button. It's variety. That's what we're trying to include you. That's what we're looking at, helping to improve that gut microbiome when we get a wide range of different plant fibers that develops a wider range of different beneficial bacteria species back into the gut. And that's what we're trying to do here. Diversity breeds resilience, and resilience in the gut is life itself. And this is what we're trying to do, because that helps protect us, helps to build up our immune system, and helps us be more resilient and more fortified. And the third thing, remove 3 biggest gut disruptors. We know what those are. You've heard me speak about them many times before, but let me remind you. 3 things causing more gut damage than almost anything else for the average man or woman over the age of 45. So it's worth talking about these. First of all is seed oils. So we're talking about vegetable oil, sunflower, rapeseed. These are used in majority of processed foods and fast food restaurants. We know they're pro-inflammatory and have been shown to disrupt the gut lining and alter the microbiome composition quite significantly and unfavorably. So we need to think about how we can replace them with extra virgin olive oil products, good quality oils, small amounts of butter and coconut oil. These things are all beneficial for us in the right amounts. They're not damaging to our health. Secondly, artificial sweeteners. We know research has published many different papers, many different journals, and how confirms that sweeteners such as saccharin, sucralose, and aspartame directly alter the gut microbiome. So what can we do moving forward to reduce our exposure to those things? The exact opposite of what we're trying to do is to promote as opposed to reduce. So where possible, replace sweeteners with alternatives if that's not something you like to have in your diet. And third, unnecessary antibiotics. Now, we touched on this earlier before. I'm not suggesting that if you've got a condition that you stay away completely from antibiotics when you've got a real genuine reason to utilize them. I'm suggesting the next time a doctor offers them, maybe for a viral infection, for which they have no real direct effect, ask, can you try to do something alternative? Are they really necessary? If you don't need to take them or follow a course immediately, what are the other options? Because we know that taking those antibiotics are going to significantly damage your gut health, significantly, not only short term, but long term as well. We want to be doing things that limit our exposure to damage to the gut. So maybe, and this is a suggestion, you would obviously need to discuss this on an individual level with your GP, your doctor, your physician, on what is a suitable alternative to overcome this health challenging that you think that the antibiotics can remedy. So in summary, what we've been talking about today, we have been talking about go by your gut, the hidden connection between digestive health and how you feel after 45. We've just spoken about the 3 steps. The control center we know is the gut. We know that it controls our mood, controls our immune function, it controls our hormone balance, even our mental health, it has an impact. We've explored why gut health specifically deteriorates after 45 and the combined assault of low fiber antibiotics and chronic stress and ultra processed foods and what sort of negative effect they have on us, short term and long term. Because we're here to live longer, long as possible, but healthy. And we know that our gut health has a massive impact on that. Talks about the 3 steps you can introduce. So add fermented foods daily to begin restoring beneficial bacteria back into your gut. Look for 30 different food types. If you can, over the course of a week, reintroduce those over a period of time. And remove those 3 biggest gut disruptors: seed oil, artificial sweeteners, and unnecessary antibiotics. Your gut has been trying to tell you something for a while, but today, because you've listened to this podcast episode all the way through, you're starting to listen, you're starting listening, and you're taking action. Everything we've talked about today connects. Connects your sleep, your muscle, your energy, and importantly, your mood. Your gut is a thread that runs through it all. Now, if you want guidance and you want to address these things together, not as separate problems, as one interconnected system of systems, I'd love to help you do that. As I mentioned, you can join us on the Real Longevity Podcast community. And if you're ready to go one step further, we can discuss about a bespoke program tailored to where you are right now on your journey so you can start enjoying real health, upgrading your fitness well-being, and improving the quality of your life. It'll be a program built around you, helping you build a stronger, leaner, longer body that you can enjoy. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel where we upload bonus content. I'll leave all the details in the show notes. It'd be good to see you on those platforms there as well. Remember, your gut is your foundation. Build it strong. I'm Mike Hendricks. Thank you for joining me again on the Real Longevity Podcast. Until next time, be well, be wise, be cool, be calm, and keep it real. Blessings and chi. Peace.